Good afternoon. Good afternoon. It's a great afternoon. An extraordinarily excellent afternoon. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and welcome to the MIT Sloan Boston Finance Forum with the theme Financial System 2.0. My name is Dave Schmittlein, and I'm Dean of MIT's Sloan School of Management. And it's a joy to see so many of you gathered here today. We have representatives here from our various boards for the school, the Finance Group's Advisory Board, the MIT Sloan Global Executive Boards. We have faculty and students. I'm glad to see so many here in the audience. We have members of our alumni community and friends of the school and corporate partners. Especially grateful to all of you for, in some cases, hiring our students, for engaging with our faculty and students on campus, and in many cases for sponsoring experiential learning, action learning projects at MIT Sloan. Thank you so much for all of it. I also want to thank our speakers today. This is an amazing program that we have this afternoon, and it doesn't happen by my talking here for 2 hours, and so don't worry about that. It happens from their concern for you and for the future of finance. You know that one of the modern finance paradoxes is the way that technology is in some respects part of a problem. It can undermine rather than help with transparency, and certainly can be a source of risk. But if technology is a problem, it's also part of the solution. You can see how it can be a help for transparency, can assist with the resiliency of financial systems. For this reason and others, it's not just natural, but necessary that MIT be a substantial part of the creation of new financial systems. I'm proud of our faculty in finance. I'm proud of our impact and our legacy in finance. I think in this room, I don't need to persuade you of the importance of successful, resilient financial systems in a functioning modern economy, although there are some rooms where I need to make that case. And I also think I don't need to persuade you in this room that modern finance is crucial to the functioning of modern financial systems. And I hope you will all agree with me regarding a simple truth. Modern finance was invented at MIT more so than in any other single place. So at MIT, we have a natural role and even a responsibility to have and hold the high ground in finance, to develop and deploy the finance that the world actually needs. What does that high ground look like? I want to just briefly suggest two parts of that high ground. The first is a kind of person that we work to develop at MIT Sloan. These are people who are smart. You have to be smart. You can't be not smart. You're not smart. They have to be smart, but they also have to be grounded. They have to know what they know and know what they don't know. Smart and grounded. They also have to have the concepts and methods, the depth of training to work independently, but to have the instinct to be collaborators. And finally, they have to be inventive. They have to be able to create what's new and needed, but with a sense of purpose and consequences. It's those considerations that led our MIT Sloan finance faculty about 5 years ago to develop the first new degree program at MIT Sloan in over 20 years, the Master of Finance program, to meet exactly those kinds of needs that I've just mentioned to you. And at the same time, they also launched a new track in finance within our MBA program to do the same thing, developing the people that help us hold the high ground and create the finance that the world needs. The other piece of that high ground is a kind of impact through thought leadership, an impact on institutions, an impact on risk, systemic risk, and the resiliency to withstand large, unplanned transitions and consequences in financial markets, and an understanding of the way that policy choices shape those considerations of risk and shape the actions of financial institutions. And that's what led our finance faculty, led by Professor Deborah Lucas, Professor Andrew Lowe, and Professor Bob Merton and their colleagues, to develop a new center at MIT, the Center for Finance and Policy. And you'll hear more about that center this afternoon. This is not just an MIT Sloan Center. Because of its focus on finance and policy, it reaches out across all of MIT, across engineering, economics, political science, and certainly across MIT's Sloan School. Our commitment to you and to the world is to create that finance that the world needs. Now, the most important job that I have is to introduce you to the Master of Ceremonies this afternoon, and it's a great honor and a joy to do exactly that. David Modeste is a founding partner for Blue Mesa Capital Management. Blue Mesa is a new asset management firm focused on direct and indirect investing in a broad cross-section of global capital markets. Prior to that, David was with Soros Fund Management. Among his responsibilities was his service as head of external manager investments and manager selection. Prior to that, David was a managing director at JP Morgan. Prior to that, we're not going to go all the way back to kindergarten, but he has served, I think quite interestingly and importantly, as a professor at Columbia's Business School and also at the Haas School of Business, the University of California, Berkeley. David Modeste holds a bachelor's degree in economics from MIT and also a PhD in economics from MIT. Please welcome David Modeste.
Thank you, Dean Schmittlein. It's a pleasure to be here today. In case anyone's wondering, when I was in kindergarten, I think Dwight Eisenhower was president, just to put it a little bit in perspective. Anyway, as I said, I'm delighted to be here today. I have 2 degrees from MIT, and I'm incredibly grateful for how much MIT has enriched my life and how willing and open they were to actually welcome me here when I first came. I would just say it's a fabulous time to be involved in the finance industry and a fabulous time for finance at MIT. I know I got excited about finance back in the early days of Black-Scholes and when sort of all of the derivative modeling was going on. And in some sense, one might have thought that was a renaissance time for finance, and it certainly was, but finance continues to be, as an industry, incredibly dynamic and changing. And it's over this whole period of time, as you all know, the finance sector has witnessed tremendous growth. It's grown from about 2.8% of GDP, sort of back, say, 50 years ago, to just about 8.3% of GDP just prior to the crisis, which is almost a 300% growth. And really, all of us have really benefited from that growth. It's hard to believe this, but I think if you look back around 1980, the typical financial service worker earned about the same as their counterpart in other industries. And by 2006, the average financial service worker earned about 70% more than people in other industries. And I don't think David Tepper accounts for exactly all of that. Not only has the importance of the financial services grown, but there continues to be dynamic change, not necessarily in the functional role of financial markets, but in the specific institutional structures We see the changing nature of banks becoming increasingly like regulated utilities. We've seen just really in the last 10 years the growth, death, and rebirth of shadow banking. We've seen a hedge fund industry that's grown from virtually nothing to over $2 trillion of assets today. And we've seen an increasingly global and interconnected world where it feels like a sneeze in one part of the world can cause huge ripples really all over the planet. I think standing here today, we still have huge hopes that finance can contribute to the development of parts of the world that need massive investments and have lagged most of the developing world. And there's really hopes for finance, and MIT's been intimately involved, that finance can help solve basic problems such as cancer and the Cancer RX program that MIT has been at the forefront of. Hopefully it will be a major contributor to that. We have an exciting day ahead of us here today. We have some of the world's leading financial thinkers, both from MIT's financial community and also from practitioners with strong MIT connections. Those speakers will include Professor Adrian Verdellen, one of the world's leading experts on currency risk and the carry trade. We have Professor Andrew Lowe, who really needs no introductions, but whose research interest and contributions are almost as large as the distance from Earth to Deneb, which I think is the star that, with the naked eye, is sort of the farthest that we can view, about 1,550 light years. We're lucky to have Professor Jonathan Parker, who will be here, who is a leading expert on the nexus between household finance, financial markets, and public policy. We're also very lucky to have Professor Deborah Lucas. She's arguably the country's top expert in the unstated cost of government subsidy and support programs, and she'll talk, as the dean just mentioned, about the exciting new center at MIT, the Center for Finance and Policy. We've got a distinguished practitioner panel that includes Mark Kritzman, Eric Rosenfeld, Roger Stein, and Paul Willen. And finally, we have the person who I think of as maybe the David Ortiz of MIT's finance faculty, Bob Merton, the distinguished Nobel laureate, certainly been an MVP in my life. And then we'll end the day with a cocktail reception where hopefully lots of us can have a chance to mingle.